So you know those stories that you hear about people who end up in a really bad place in life based off of their decisions that they've made? And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to not end up in the same place as them. This is what I'm hoping this video will help you guys with. For a quick background, I used to work at a bank for 2.5 years, give or take, when I was an undergrad, both at the branch and in headquarters. And at the branch, you come across a lot of clients who have either made really good financial decisions or not so great financial decisions, and you're able to see the outcomes of both. From those experiences, I was able to pull a lot of the lessons learned that I would like to share with you guys so that you won't make the same mistakes, so that you'll end up in a really good spot when you do graduate, especially when it comes to financial habits. Okay, before I start, two disclaimers. One is the fact that I am not a financial advisor, therefore any of the tips or advice that I'm giving you guys, or the lessons learned that I'm giving you guys, is from mainly my own experience and also from research, and that kind of leads me to point number two. I always want to give you guys good, accurate information, which is why I always list my sources down below in the description box. With that said, let's get into it. So the first mistake that I've seen a lot of people make is getting a credit card without knowing how to pay it off properly, or not understanding how the credit system works. Your credit score affects so much in your future life when you become a functional adult in terms of getting any types of loans, whether it is a mortgage or a car loan, even getting employed. Your employers check your credit score as part of the background check. So it's really important to have a good credit score, but it's also very important to start building it up as soon as you can. With that comes a lot of responsibility and understand how to pay it off, when to pay it off, and what happens if you don't pay it off. Really quick, in a nutshell, for credit instruments, especially for credit cards, not only does it affect whether or not you can get a loan in general, but it also affects whether or not you can get an interest rate, and a good interest rate at that. And that's very important in the future when you don't want to pay extra money on top of having to borrow money. Another thing that not a lot of people know is that when you do become an adult, it is harder for you to get a credit card or any type of credit instrument if you do not have a credit score in the first place. It's a lot of the reasons why newcomers into Canada who don't have a credit score have a very hard time getting a credit card. So a few of the suggestions, especially if you are young, if you're like 18 or 19, but in general, you can always get a student credit card, and that allows you to build your own credit score without having to rely on anybody. When you do become an adult, when you are no longer a student and you are looking to get a credit card, for example, and you don't have a credit score, it is much harder for you to get an unsecured credit card, which is basically a credit card without having to put any money within that card as collateral. So let's say you have a $1,000 credit card limit. If it was a secured credit card, it means that you have to put $1,000 down in a way as collateral in case that you can't pay off the amounts that you utilize. But if it was an unsecured credit card, which most people have, or at least should have, that means that you don't have to put any money into that card and just in order to use it. There are like 5 factors that credit companies use to determine your credit score, and I want to zone in on the credit utilization rate. Basically, the credit utilization rate, which is 30%, is the amount that you should be using of your credit limit before you pay off how much you owe. And this is really important. So let's say you have $1,000 for your credit limit, which most students have, or most people have starting off. You want to use up to 300 of that amount before you pay it off. And that would increase your credit score faster than if you had used, let's say, 50% or even 10%. So it's actually surprising, but if you are not using your credit card that often and paying it off, your credit score doesn't actually grow that fast. So this is a really good life hack too. If you are in a really not so great position with your credit score, but you want to grow it faster, this is a really good rule to follow. So most of the time when banks offer you a credit limit increase, and you personally know that you'll be able to control yourself in terms of spending and paying it off on time, I would take that credit limit increase so that you have a larger range to spend, an easier way to increase your credit score faster. If you ever come across a time in your life, which you likely will, where you have to choose between providing an email for an e-transfer or your bank account information for pre-authorized withdrawal, always choose the e-transfer route, or even like post-dated checks. Never ever give your bank account information for pre-authorized withdrawal to anyone as often as it makes sense. I've seen situations where the individual had purchased something online and they wanted to return it, and the online merchant asked them for their bank account information to directly deposit the amount into their bank account. It might sound obviously a scam to you guys right now, but when you're in the moment, you're like, yeah, that totally makes sense. another situation where this one person had to get a loan. In getting a loan, obviously you have to pay back principal plus interest. And so what happened with that loan company is that she provided her bank account information, and the loan company had withdrawn the principal plus interest after like a month or two, and then they kept withdrawing it. And then afterwards, she would change banks and they would follow the bank account. It's not the same bank, it's not the same bank account information, but for some reason, she still kept getting money withdrawn from that account. So please, you guys, if you ever have the opportunity to choose a different route aside from giving your bank account information, always choose the other route. So again, like an e-transfer or a post-dated check. And I think this is especially applicable for when you're renting with landlords. Obviously, if it is an employer and they're doing direct deposit into your bank account, then yes, it makes sense to give them your bank account information, but this is more focused on pre-authorized withdrawals. Always remove your personal information when you toss out any packages that you receive, any mail pieces that you receive. So that includes your address, your name, your postal code. And that's very important because think of the credit card statements that your parents might receive in the mail. Think of what shows up on those credit card statements, and if it gets into the wrong hands, just simply through someone sifting through garbage, or it ends up on the street. And there are some very far lengths that people would go to in order to steal ID and to get money and to ruin your credit score. I have had clients that would come in and they would be frauded. Their identity would be taken. They've never lost their wallet. They don't put any information online because they rarely use the internet. These are like older clients. And I asked them, do you remove your information from the mail that you receive? 95% of the times they say no. Remove your information. Guys, like, you never know what's going to happen. So I wanted this video to be very quick. Those are the main lessons that I had learned and I wanted to share with you guys. If you guys want to see more videos like these, let me know in the comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up and of course hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all in my next video.